You asking me out on a date during Mercury retrograde immediately makes me side-eye you. Like, are you the devil? Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jhazel, and today is another podcast style video. Still haven't came up with the name of it. Someone recommended Jhazel Talks, so maybe I'll name it that. I don't know. But today I'm back with another video, and today we are talking about how Mercury retrograde is for the unhealed. And I know this is going to be, it could be controversial depending on, you know, who you ask, but I want to say that I'm not saying it as it's a fact or set in stone, but more so to open a conversation for everybody to see what everybody thinks about it. And then I also wanted to say that I know that in my last video I always kept saying like I'm a healed person, but I want to say that healing is not a destination, it is a journey. There is still parts of me that needs a little bit more healing. There's some parts where I'm just like, okay, I feel like I've healed here and I've mastered this lesson. And so I just want to say that because I don't want you to feel like, and I don't want you to watch these videos and hear me reference myself as a healed person and think like, oh my God, it's a destination, because it's not. It's ever going. There's constantly times that I maybe get triggered and I need to do some more inner work. So I just want to say that first. So let's get into today's topic. So Mercury retrograde. If you don't know, Mercury retrograde is a time period where Mercury speeds past Earth and it goes into a retrograde period. And there's different times in the year where Mercury goes into retrograde, and during that time you can experience problems with communication, the car problems, technology problems. You can get triggered. You can have exes come back. It's just a time period where it gets ghetto on Earth, okay? Like, it just gets really ghetto. So that is something to really keep in mind. So I just want to give a background. If you don't know, there's more videos on YouTube talking about Mercury retrograde if you want to deep dive into it. And yeah, so I wanted to get into the topic of Mercury retrograde is for the unhealed. And I really recently was having this inner dialogue with myself, because I think about my time in the beginning of my healing journey, and even the time where I was being pushed by the universe to heal, but really wasn't accepting of it, and going through Mercury retrograde versus now when I go through Mercury retrograde. So, and then I'm thinking like, yeah, Mercury retrograde is really for the unhealed. It's not really for the healed people. And the reason I say that is because when I look back at my journey when I was unhealed, or in that time period where I was like being pushed to heal and really being like entering my spiritual awakening, Mercury retrograde was a time where people would come back, and also like I would have a lot of my exes come back, or I would feel called to talk to some of my exes, to have a conversation. I would also have this problem of like miscommunication, but it really wasn't miscommunication. I feel like it was like the universe showing me who this person was, and me like really being like, it was like so blatant in my face, like I couldn't miss it. Like it wasn't just a red flag, it was a red flag on fire, okay? And then also I feel like a lot of people, like the people around me that weren't meant to be around me, like they were triggering me. And I was really questioning, like, why do I keep this person around? And like, why does this person treat me like this? Why do I keep experiencing people like this? Like that type of stuff. So when I was like more in the beginning of my healing journey, and I want to talk more about like when I was in the beginning of my healing journey, and so I knew what Mercury retrograde was. A lot of people would come back and want to get closure with me and want to have the conversation of things that may have happened between us. And in a sense, like before Mercury would come, I would be working on like healing past that situation. And then sometimes when people would come back for closure, I would get re-triggered, and I would need to do a little bit more work, because now I have a sense of how they felt about the situation. And so I'll give you an example. Like I had this one ex that I reached out to during Mercury retrograde that I feel like was really like my twin flame. Like this was my soulmate. This was like, you couldn't tell me this wasn't going to be the person that I was meant to be with. And when I finally reached out to them, they just act like they were so, I feel like they were still in a place of like hurt and pettiness, that they really weren't receiving what I was saying. And so it just got to a point where like I had healed so much by myself in regards to the situation, that when it came time and I realized like this is what the place that they were operating from, I felt like I understand where this person is coming from. They're hurt, even though I feel like they shouldn't be, because they did me wrong. And I feel like the universe was asking me to just leave the situation. I realized that in that moment, I do have this person's attention. So I'm going to at least pour my heart out and tell them exactly how I feel. But after this moment, they will never hear from me again. And then I was able to move on. And I can't say that it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt that like they just kind of made me feel like I was shit, to be honest. Like they made me feel like I was nothing to them. But I felt like it was important for me to take this time to let them know that this is how I felt about this person. This is how the situation made me feel, and things of that sort. So yeah, so I would say like Mercury retrograde, I feel like in my first part of being unhealed was really a time period where like I was just getting triggered, and I was really getting pushed to like to really reevaluate the cycle that I was in. Because to me, before, I just thought that I was just living life. But starting your healing journey, you realize that you're in periods of cycles and seasons. And I feel like Mercury retrograde really causes you to evaluate the season that you're in and really figure out what is the lesson that you're supposed to be learning. And so I feel like for the unhealed people, because you are not where the universe feels you need to be, the universe is constantly throwing triggers at you, constantly throwing people back your way, constantly causing you or trying to force you to see what's going on in your life so that you can become ultimately what the universe wants you to become. And especially if you are saying like, I want to live this type of life, this is what I'm manifesting, the universe is really going to cause you to heal the certain parts of you that needs to be healed in order to be in the rooms that you need to be in. So I was recently just having this conversation with my mom. It's like, the room that you want to be in requires a different version of yourself, and if you're not willing to do the work to become that person that ultimately deserves to be in that type of room, you will never see you will never be in that room. And I feel like Mercury retrograde is one of those periods that causes you to see what the universe is asking of you and causing you to do the work so that ultimately you can reap your manifestations. So yeah, I want to say that. But I want to so that's why I feel like Mercury retrograde is more for the unhealed, because I feel like you are being pushed and triggered more so than someone who is working on their healing journey every single day. You know, like I'm working on my healing journey every single day. Every single day something pops up. Every single day I'm doing some type of inner work. Every single day I'm working, I'm using the things that I've learned the day before in this new day. So I'm constantly working on it, versus someone who is not, or someone who has started their healing journey. They're not really at the point where they're not at that kind of mastery level yet to where they are using stuff. They are still in that point where they are still trying to figure out the lessons in all of this, and still trying to figure out what's the point of all of this, and they're still trying to see the vision of all of this. Versus me, I understand the vision of all of this, and I understand how it's supposed to be applied daily and how I'm supposed to show up daily. And so I think that's the difference between me and somebody else, and that's how I feel like. And I think because of that, Mercury retrograde adjusts its approach to those two different people. And so lastly, I want to talk about Mercury retrograde as someone who is further along in their healing journey. When Mercury retrograde comes now, I am not triggered as much, and I don't really experience as much things as how I did at the beginning. Like now I feel like Mercury retrograde is just like, oh, okay, it's Mercury retrograde. You know, as someone who is more in my healed journey, like further along in my healing journey, Mercury retrograde is just a time where, yes, there is still miscommunication. Yes, I still have technology problems, but I don't let it get to me because I know what this period is for. Also, there is sometimes, depending on where I am in my healing journey, like if I just recently got out of a situation, or if I didn't use my voice in a situation, if I wasn't stricter with my boundaries, sometimes I still can get triggered. And sometimes I feel like even too, now when Mercury retrograde comes, I get more tests. Like, I'll meet somebody during Mercury retrograde, and let me just say this real quick. You asking me out on a date during Mercury retrograde immediately makes me side-eye you. Like, are you the devil? Like, why are you asking me out on Mercury retrograde? Like, no, I cannot see you during Mercury retrograde. And I know people say you shouldn't do that because Mercury retrograde it be lasting like 2 weeks, you know? But, and two, like, sometimes your person can come, you know, during Mercury retrograde. But I tell the universe, don't send me nobody during Mercury retrograde, because this is automatic no over here. Like, no. But I do get tests more, like more in-person tests where I may meet somebody and I need to apply my boundaries, my standards. But I don't get, and sometimes I do still get triggered in my healing, but it's not so much. Like, half of the time I don't even realize it's Mercury retrograde until I see it on Twitter or something. But before, when it was Mercury retrograde, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense why stuff is happening, because it's Mercury retrograde. And also, what tests my theory on this too is because me, as someone who's further along my healing journey versus someone like my mom who's not really in her healing journey, she'll tell me stuff that's happening to her, and I'll be like, yeah, we're in the middle of Mercury retrograde, and I'll be like, that's not happening to me. Like, I'm you know, and that's how I know, like, Mercury retrograde is more so a push for the people that are not in their healing journey or that have not spiritually awakened, versus people who have. Because when I hear the stories that's happening to her and the miscommunication and the people popping up and just the disagreements, I'm like, yeah. And then she's like sitting there talking about why is this stuff happening, and I'm just like, yeah, this is only supporting my proof that Mercury retrograde is more so for the unhealed. And I feel like now, like for me in my healing journey, I don't get triggered much by Mercury retrograde, and half of the time I don't even realize Mercury retrograde is happening. And so I just want to say that for someone who is like getting triggered by Mercury retrograde, for someone who is at the beginning of their healing journey, I want you to know that it does really get easier in so many different aspects. Where at the beginning, I feel like the universe is bringing out the hard balls because they really are pushing you each and every day to reach this point. And I feel like they don't just push you to reach this inner healing and this inner peace, but they also push you because, like I said before, what you are asking the universe, what you are manifesting, requires a different version of yourself. It requires you to have strict boundaries. It requires you to have strict standards. It requires you to have non-negotiables. It requires you to have a certain amount of self-love and self-worth. And that can only come from that harsh part in the beginning of your healing journey, and those Mercury retrogrades and those triggers. And they use people from your past, they use miscommunication for you to be pushed into the rooms that you're meant to be. Like, sometimes Mercury retrograde, you could be at this job that's just treating you poorly, and Mercury retrograde will start, like, during that time period, people at work will just be getting on your nerves, and you'll just be feeling undervalued. And that really is a push for you to see that you deserve better than this, and by you seeing that, you will push yourself to apply for more jobs, and that way the universe can bless you. So you see how that works. So what I want to say is, like, it does get easier. Like, the healing journey does get easier, and it's just because you've worked towards mastering things, you know. As you work more towards mastering, the lessons come faster. You're able to recognize the lessons faster. You're able to maneuver faster. You're able to see what like, you're able to pinpoint what is triggering this and what work you need to do to fix this. Like, you just move faster. And so I want you to, I just say all that to say, not to, like, I don't say this title to be like, oh, like, the healed is better than the unhealed, but it really is to a point, like, it does get better, you know. And I know it's hard at the beginning, but it does get better. It gets easier. The crying happens less frequently. The smiles are more abundant. They're more frequent. The learning is faster. So I just want to say that that is my main point, that yes, Mercury retrograde is for the unhealed. That is my personal opinion. But as you get deeper into your healing journey, it does become easier, and it's not as hard, and it doesn't hurt as much, and you don't cry as much, and you don't feel so alone. You really start to just embrace this journey, and you really start to just find ways to make it happy in the season. You become more present in the season that you're in. So that's just what I wanted to say today's video. And the next video I'm going to be talking about identity switch, because I feel like this kind of maneuvers me into what I want to talk about, which I want to deep dive into, like why the person that you need to become, the rooms that you want to enter, requires a different person of you. And so yeah, so I want to talk about that. So that will be the next episode. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Do you feel like Mercury retrograde is for the unhealed? When you think back to your healing journey, like, do you think that the beginning was much harder than where you are right now? And does Mercury retrograde even affect you? Do you even know what Mercury retrograde is? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.